This episode of Detail Therapy is brought to you by 99 Designs. I love these guys. They always say such kind things about me, and I think it's also because all my stuff looks awesome because I use their designers. Trust me when I say design is everything, and yet it can get expensive. It's really hard to have somebody doing all your graphics for you all the time when you're just getting started. And the most important thing is to at least have a great looking brand so you can add some continuity to anything that you're doing on your own. For that starting out point, I highly recommend you go to 99 Designs. You will see on my page there at 99designs.com/AMYTV that I did my branding for Detail Therapy there. I even designed my book, Vlog Like a Boss, with 99 Designs. So there's so many things that they can do. Very, very talented designers helping you out, and they're competing for the best work that you deserve. And so you're always able to pick the right one for you. So go and get $20 off your first design by going to 99designs.com/AMYTV. That's 99designs.com/AMYTV.
She's an award-winning YouTuber and best-selling author obsessed with helping you go after the life you want.
I like it.
Join her as she seeks out the stories and strategies.
Give me every little detail
of extraordinary people who found success.
I'm going to get emotional. Oh my God.
Welcome to Detail Therapy with Amy Landino.
That's really my why. Obviously it comes from a very personal point, but I think that in translation to what everyone else does and finds, just finding that purpose. And that's kind of like a cliche thing, like you find your purpose, but it's really true. And that's really what it is. If you're not purposeful with what you're doing in life, then it doesn't really matter.
Good morning, good life. Welcome back to Detail Therapy. You just heard a little bit from my chat with Lindsey Moeller, founder of Concur. In this episode, we're going to talk about 3 skincare mistakes you might be making. And even I was making some of these mistakes, and I'm a total freak about skin, so you're going to want to hear this. The secret to clear and healthy skin that nobody in this industry is talking about yet, and why skincare retailers and brands are trying to avoid it, and how you can start caring for your skin right now in a more natural way, even and especially if you happen to have oats in the pantry. Yeah, oats. Get ready. We have a lot to get into with Lindsey today, but for those of you who are new to the show, my name is Amy Landino, and I will be your host. I'm a YouTube creator, professional speaker, best-selling author, and entrepreneur. I'm here to help you go after the life that you want. You can find out more details about me at youtube.com/AMYTV. I'm very excited for this chat. I love talking skincare. It's something I'm very passionate about. It's not like it's something I talk about a lot. Every once in a while, I get questions about it, what I do, what I like to use. And I'm very excited to be talking about Concur today because they're doing such important work in the skincare and beauty world. When you think about the fact that maybe, just maybe, your life could depend on it, you start to take things a little bit more seriously. We're going to hear a really tough story from Lindsey that inspired her to start this company. And I just want you to hear the passion in her voice. Honestly, it's hard when something so awful happens to you. But the silver lining being that you realize how much you can do for this world because you've learned so much. It's a beautiful thing, even when it happens after something difficult. And I'm saying this as somebody who now understands this. So no matter what your passion is, no matter what you're excited about, no matter if you care about skincare or not, I just think Lindsey is such a shining example of a female entrepreneur and woman who wants to do big things. And I hope that the other women who are listening to this show will aspire to such greatness. Lindsey's pretty awesome. So let's get into it with my next guest. Lindsey Moeller is the founder of Concur, a different kind of skincare company that makes products that balance the microbiome and unlock our body's potential for healthy, beautiful skin. After losing her mother to an environmental cancer, she made it her purpose in life to stop this from happening again by helping us understand what our bodies are telling us and developing conscious products that help us naturally care for it. Let's get into my chat with Lindsey Moeller. Lindsey Moeller, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Tell me, why do you do what you do?
So I have a skincare line called Concur. And I started this after we lost our mom. Our family lost our mom to environmental cancer. And that really was my turning point and
How old were you?
why moment. This was 2015. So, oh goodness.
That was recent.
Just dated myself, I guess.
Yeah.
But
No.
late 20s, you know. I won't give you the exact date.
No, that's
or year.
okay. I didn't realize it was. Yeah, that's pretty recent.
Yeah. And I mean, at that point, when you go through a loss, it's always, a turning point, a place where you kind of just question where you're at in your own life. And that was just kind of what happened to me. So that was my moment of clarity and turning to something that had more purpose. And my background had always been in science and my education. So I went to Ohio State, did molecular genetics and biology and cancer research. And my professional background, wasn't in science, right? So I was in marketing, and while I loved the analytics side of that, it just wasn't, fulfilling enough for me. And I really wanted to get down to a lot of the issues that we've had in my mom's treatment plan and start to solve some of those from the bottom up. So that's really my why. Obviously it comes from a very personal point, but I think that in translation to what everyone else does and finds, just finding that purpose. And it's kind of like a cliche thing, like you find your purpose, but it's really true. And that's really what it is. If you're not purposeful with what you're doing in life, then it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and I think you're right about you have different turning points in your life, and some more significant than others. And this happens to be one that kind of set you up where you are now, and other ones maybe sent you in the direction you were in the past. But
for sure.
That's such a good point. And trust me when I say, we've been talking, I should say we've been talking, it's probably like been 7 or 8 months now, because within the last 6 months, I also had a loss, and we lost touch because of that. Actually, I'm going to point that out, but it is amazing how you readdress something. So I can imagine, and it's really fascinating to me where this direction went for you, and how much the environmental cancer that took your mom started such a fire on Concur. So we'll get to that in just a second, but I met you at a founders dinner here in Columbus. And it was just so cool to hear from a lot of different founders, a lot of people with startups, or a lot of people that are doing some fundraising and things like that with their companies, and that you were doing this in the beauty world. And I was like, you got to tell me what you're doing. This is so interesting. I've actually talked about Concur on the YouTube channel in a previous video. I'll link to that in the show notes. But I love being a guinea pig for skincare. And I just thought it was really fascinating what you were talking about, because it's not something that I've yet seen so gabbed about in these circles. And in a world of YouTube and Instagram and all these happy places where we're learning about skin first and do all these things, and also makeup is great, but really take care of your skin. You're talking about something that I don't think anyone really truly understands yet. So I feel like the best way to set this up is, how would you describe what Concur is differently than everybody else? What is the focus?
Sure. So Concur is an all organic skincare line that focuses on microbiome protection. And so that's really the key word, is the microbiome.
So what is the microbiome? I think that's like where I'm like, okay, that sounds great, because that sounds like something I've been ignoring. So what is that, and why do we need to care about it?
Yeah. So it is basically a makeup of all these little microbes, this whole nother world that we can't even see, this microscopic world of, bacteria and fungi and viruses and just things we don't even obviously recognize on a day-to-day basis. And so it's so, foreign and invisible to us that we don't pay attention to it. But it makes up over half of our body in some instances. And so it's innate and essential to our wellness as human beings. And for a long time, especially in personal care, it's been completely ignored.
Yeah, and I'm trying to understand why. Like, one thing that really stood out to me about Concur when I tried it was that it was like, okay, well, just so you know, you start using it, because this is going to go bad. And I don't think we think about that much when we are shopping for our products, when we're shopping for things that are going on our face, something that hopefully we're keeping where we want it to be for as long as possible for the rest of our lives. And we're trying to take care of it. And we might be putting things on our skin that shouldn't be, potentially because they've gone bad and you're not even thinking about that element of it. But this product is specifically, I don't want to say specifically designed, but it's its most effective only for a set period of time because of how it interacts with the microbiome.
Yep, Exactly. And so there are some challenges when you're in this space, and one of them is just how you formulate. They have to be formulated in a very particular way, because what we're trying to do is protect that healthy bacteria, the bacteria that's actually fighting for you, that makes you healthy, that regulates a lot of your homeostasis, and homeostasis just means balance, right? It provides that immunity that you need to have healthy skin and prevent aging and those type of things. And when you formulate, there's a certain way that you have to formulate. Like, for example, we can't use preservatives, which is why our products are made fresh and made to order, and they have a shelf life, because we can't use the things that are put in the products to make them shelf stable. And I think the industry for so long has done that because of the retail model, right? Like, if I want to put my stuff on store shelves, by nature, I'm going to have to put preservatives in them, because who knows how long it's going to sit there before the consumer picks it up. And it happens in food, it happens in all these industries, is how can we get this to the masses? And because of that economic thought, which is great on the economy scale, right? But when you look at how it affects the actual consumer in that use practice, we're now starting to learn that it's not the best, And so this provides a different way. That's why we're direct to consumer. We don't really work with retailers right now. So that way we don't have to formulate with chemicals that actually disrupt the microbiome.
So what do you think, I guess I'm trying to understand how to ask this question, because it's like, well, there's the obvious, but like, why do you think this is something that couldn't go to retail? Do you think it's mostly because of how difficult it is to make this product, sell this product in a timely fashion, to have it be effective, and that doesn't really work from being in a Sephora sitting on a shelf situation? Or is it just expensive to make things this way?
A little bit of both, It is. We only use organic products and or in raw materials, and I'm very particular about sourcing. So that's a whole another topic of how to identify the right sources of things, and so yes, that's one of them. But two, it's just some of them is packaging limitations, right? Like if things are and it's also a protection. So if you introduce bacteria to some of our products, they potentially could grow bacteria, right? And that could be harmful. And so what we're trying to do is prevent that negative or pathogenic bacteria from coming in. But that's the same thing with fresh food. Like you put milk in the refrigerator, it has an expiration date, because it's going to, as you use it and open it and introduce it to bacteria, it's going to grow bacteria over time and go bad and go rancid. And it's the same type of thing with our products, is if they sit for too long, then there is potential, if it's exposed to air or light or any of those things that could, break down some of the chemicals or constituents, then it could go bad. And that's what we have to prevent, is something negative happening to the consumer, right? And so we're putting all those preventative measures in it by making it fresh, made to order, and send it directly to him or her when the order comes in. So it doesn't mean that we can't ever work in retail, but there are just some challenges that we have to fix before we do that.
How did you decide how many things would be in this skincare line? I hear this a lot, where it's like you can have like a 7-step, which I probably do. It's ridiculous. But you can do a lot of things, but what are you really doing? Like, how did you decide what would be in this care program so that it would help people with their microbiome, but not be, I guess what I'm saying is everybody's different, but at the same time, it's like you're really just caring for one aspect of what's going to help your skin the most.
Yeah.
And I feel like you're really focused. The packaging shows that. Everything about this is very like simplicity and keep it natural, but also just like stay focused on a couple of things. So how do you decide what's in the line?
There was a lot that went into that as far as the thought process, because I did want to make it as simple as possible. It doesn't need to be this, overdone routine that's super expensive, and knowing that our products, have a shorter shelf life, I didn't want it to be something that only, the top 1% could afford. Right. I want this to be, affordable, because that's part of the problems that I'm solving, right? Like when we went through the issues with my mom, a lot of it was just not having access to things that we needed. The things that were actually working for her were just not covered by insurance, far too expensive, like not accessible. And that's what I'm trying to solve. And so that was very important to me as we were trying to, put this together. And fortunately, the first thing that was developed was the cream. And so that's really what the genesis of the idea is. I had worked on a probiotic cream for an acupuncturist that focuses on dermatology, and it did very well, with her patients. And that was kind of like, okay, this thing is working. Let's do some focus groups around it and get some testing and see how we can make a regimen. And so I went back to the very typical, like, what's the most simple thing that you can do in a routine, and like cleanse, tone, and moisturize, And I think like a long time ago, like, I don't know, 50 years ago, whatever, that was a very common routine, like cleanse, tone, moisturize. And it was simple. And then it became, now it's just like all these different things that you have to do. And obviously exfoliate and throw that in there every once in a while, but not, you don't have to do that every single day. You can do that periodically. And so we can throw those things on as add-ons or whatever. But on the daily, I felt like that was like the basic that we could do. And with the toner, I mean, typically or historically, toners were kind of created for a couple of different reasons. And one was to rebalance that pH. And I think things went away from that.
Now I'm hearing, it's so funny you say that, because I was going to ask you your thoughts on this. Toner, that's what I've heard initially. And now recently it's more like toner is here to start reintroducing moisture to the skin. And I was like, I feel like a cream can do that while introducing moisture to the skin. Yeah. So like, what do you feel like your toner is specifically designed to do?
So our toner is the most healing product that we have. So that has the most botanicals that are infused in it. It takes 4 weeks to make. And it's the most acidic product that we have. So acidity and that pH is extremely important. Your skin's pH is around like a 4.5 to a 5.5, somewhere around that range. And obviously that varies. And a lot of products that are on the market are super alkaline. None of our products are alkaline. They're formulated to be acidic for that reason, is that anytime you go out of that range, you're just taking yourself out of homeostasis for no reason, And so the toner becomes one where, it is acidic. Again, it starts to balance that a little bit, but it also is very healing. So for people who maybe going through something symptomatic, whether it be acne or rosacea or something, it really helps to heal from a botanical standpoint with all the constituents that are in there, and like anything that's inflammatory, a lot of mineral content, a lot of vitamin content, and that was one of the purposes, to have something healing. And also, it does work very well with the cleanser, like our cleanser is based in a raw honey and can provide a tackiness or stickiness that people aren't used to.
Yes.
And so the toner helps to remove some of that residual,
Okay.
So it's meant to really kind of be used together in sequence.
Awesome. I just wanted to touch on that, because every product is so intentional, and it has to do with the point of, hey, take care of your skin the right way, not necessarily in all the ways. Do you think that there's still like makeup remover versus cleanser, and like they're not exactly the same?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
There's still maybe one baby step that you got to take before.
Oh, yeah. I think so. And especially with the type of makeup that's out there right now, that's all this long wear, and it uses a lot of these chemicals that are meant to stay on the skin for a long period of time. And it is very difficult to break that up, right? And that's what you typically want a cleanser to do.
And you don't want to waste your cleanser on removing makeup when you want, especially in this program where you really need to use it to actually wash the skin.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to do multiple steps if you're trying to do that.
And so there was a little bit of that feedback from our customers in the very beginning. And so we did formulate a more heavier cleanser that just has a heavier base that can remove some of that makeup, but it's still not going to be, it just depends on the type of makeup that
What do you
use.
recommend then, so that somebody can kind of stay on track with their microbiome, like for makeup remover?
Something as simple as jojoba oil. That's something that simple. I mean, some people will use coconut oil. I don't typically recommend that all the time.
Why don't you recommend coconut oil? I hear that all the time.
Pores.
I think it's weird. I think it feels like I'm putting more stuff on my face. It's not that I'm removing anything.
Yeah. It can clog pores. I mean, some people can handle it, some people cannot. And so I think because of the variance there, I typically jojoba oil is just a lot. It's not as heavy. It's lighter. And then another one, grapeseed oil, would be another one that's even lighter.
I've heard good things about that too. Okay.
Yeah.
Kind of getting off of skincare specifically, but like skincare all over, right? Like on the inside. From your experience and what you've learned in being in this industry, we're hearing a lot more that things that could be firing up on your face or anywhere could have to do with gut health.
Absolutely.
What have you learned about that? And is there just any guidance you can give somebody that's like, okay, great, good to know it's gut health. Like, what am I supposed to do about that other than what sounds like the obvious?
Yep. And it correlates really well into what we focus on, which is it all comes back down to the microbiome and a couple of other things as well, right? And so when you're balancing your gut health, a lot of the focus is on balancing the right bacteria and fungi that are in the gut. And, the types of food that you eat, whether it's organic or not organic, that goes back into the sourcing that I was kind of, alluding to earlier, is even from the soil content. Like that's where a lot of it starts. If the soil's bad and the soil doesn't have the right microbial environment, then the rest of the chain goes wrong, And, but that's, how do you fix all of those things, right? And eventually that's the point, is to continue to have these conversations to make people more aware about that and those practices. But just those little choices of eating something that's organic or not organic can have a high impact. And we do talk some, I actually just left a meeting with a naturopath today, and she focuses a lot on gut health and microbiome in the gut internally. And obviously I focus on it from a skin perspective and topically. And there's a lot of correlation. And so we're doing conversations and talks around Columbus just to be able to talk about both of those things and how they correlate in the integration between like gut health and the skin. Because there's things that she could potentially fix internally that really might help with eczema. And then our products are a great relief, from a symptom perspective once you're going through those breakouts. But there is, the body works this entire system. And so I think the industries and sometimes medicine, a lot of times medicine, has siloed some of these things as if, let me treat this one particular thing, when the root cause could be a variant of a lot of different things. And that's challenging. It's challenging to solve problems that way. But when you get back down to gut health and microbiome, you start looking at the root cause. And so if you can fix the root cause and get the foundation laid correctly, then it becomes a little bit easier to problem solve. But that just hasn't been the mentality in like personal care industry or in medicine for a while, or at least in Western medicine.
Yeah,
So.
and it's just so fascinating to me because all of these things work together, and it's so easy, no pun intended, to spot treat, right?
Yep.
It's I'll just get this and that's going to fix this problem. But if you've done nothing else, if you've not researched any other product going on your face, or if you've never researched your own diet to see what it's actually doing to you, what is this one product that's supposed to be this holy grail, problem solved, gonna do? I just think it's so important that we start having that conversation. Right before my wedding, I actually was having just like a flare up on my skin and right above my lip. And even at the wedding, the makeup artist was like, "You've got this thing, what are we going to do about it?" And I was like, "You're going to put lip liner on it and we're going to be fine," because I've been trying to get rid of it for 6 months. It's not there. And I definitely don't want to get stressed about it now.
Yeah, right.
So, but it's like, I tried so many things. I took one thing out and I kept doing everything else the same. Didn't go anywhere. I would bring that one thing back in and take something else out, and it stayed there. And then it was just like time that went by, or maybe my diet changed. I don't know. I still don't know what the problem was, because there could be so many things that contributed to that, and knock on wood, it hasn't come back in a while. So that's exciting. But let's just, now that we're talking about this as this is a holistic situation, we're talking about gut health, we're talking about skin. Let's talk about some just basic no-nos in skincare, or taking care of your skin, or lack thereof, that you see happen frequently. Just so, even if we're not necessarily buying the line yet, or we're not sure we want to change our diet, I don't know, that might be one of your top 3. But are there some things that people are just fundamentally doing wrong on a daily basis to care for their skin long term?
Yeah. And so
you have 3. Let's just boom, boom, boom. 3 mistakes.
Okay. So of course, my focus was obviously on the microbiome, so that's where it goes.
Yeah.
And I see all these things wrong, right? And everyone's doing it wrong. But one of the biggest thing is soap. Stop using soap.
I hate the word soap because I feel like it could mean so many things.
It does.
It's
It really
just
does.
I
It's a
feel like when
category.
someone says soap, I'm thinking of a bar of soap. I would never put a bar of soap on my face if I was alone in a room with a bar of soap for 48 hours. And I have not slept with my makeup on in 15 years. So that's saying something.
Yeah. In surfactants is another term, but a lot of people don't know what that means. But soap is just a general category, and there's just a lot of things that are good and bad with soap, right? So in certain instances, soap is great. It breaks apart dirt and oil. There's a foaming agent. Those are typically surfactants. And what it does is allow all of the oil soluble things, right? Because typically we're using water to break apart and then obviously dissolve and go out when you rinse your face off, right? And then take off all of the oil based or gunk or anything that's not water soluble, really, and take it off your skin. So makeup or grime or a lot of the sebum that we produce during the day. And so there's a use for it, but every single day, it's kind of just like over cleaning, right? Like you always hear all this antibacterial stuff, like antibacterial soaps and all these like hand gels, and how disruptive that is in, just this potential like bacteria resistance, conversation. And it's the same type of concept, right? Is that it's just very disruptive to the microbiome and very harsh to our skin. Even if you reduce the alkalinity, and you see a lot of that pH neutral or pH balanced soaps,
Yes.
or like gentle soaps, but they still do the same thing. And so that was one thing, and that's obviously a lot to ask for, but that's one of the things I would absolutely stop doing, is stop washing your face every single day with a surfactant or with soap. There are other ways to break apart dirt and oil. Obviously, oil dissolves oil, right? Back to basic chemistry. To be able to start transitioning out of like using soap all of the time.
Okay. Literally every day though? Like you can't do it at least once a day?
That'd be my recommendation.
Okay. Because legit,
It's tough.
I wash my face twice a day.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Morning and night, and that's very typical. And
I feel like I'm an overachiever because I have some friends who don't wash their face every night, like much less twice a day. So I'm always like, nope, super clean. But I did get to a point during that flare up I was telling you about on my lip where I was like, you know what? I'm not going to use soap in the morning because other than rinsing off, and I'll still do my mist and all this kind of stuff that like at least wakes my face up, I don't have to wash it. There's really not a lot to wash off if I did a good job the night before.
Yeah.
Okay. So
do you feel like that was helpful?
Yeah, I do. But then I'm really rigid about my habits, and I'll be like, oh, I'm missing my soap, and I'll just like scrub again.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I were going to take your advice starting, tonight, because I definitely washed my face this morning and tomorrow, like what do I do instead? Like, what's your recommendation?
Well, obviously concur would be my recommendation. Right. But if I had to take a step back of just general things that people have in their home already. So anything oil-based, like olive oil. Olive oil would be great to just kind of, again, like take some of that makeup off, have to use all these harsh surfactants. And then, we have the buffing grains is also a type of cleanser, right? So it's something a little bit lighter. It's a clay-based option. And
I never thought about that. Okay, so I do want you to talk about the buffing grains because I think people don't really know what a good exfoliant is. It doesn't have to be such a big bead inside of a soap that you could literally string it on a necklace. It's disgusting. But the buffing grains, which are your exfoliant that you can add into the cleanser, those could be used alone.
Yeah, absolutely.
To cleanse.
Yep.
Just because you're just getting stuff off your face.
And that's how I kind of started. Like when I went through this regimen, when I was like learning and, I studied herbalism for a long time, and that was one of the first cleansers that I adopted. And it works very well when you don't wear a lot of makeup and you have a very simple routine. Yeah. But it doesn't solve everyone's problems. And so hence why we went, did more of a cleansing option. But that's just how I started, something with clay and water and oats naturally. There are natural things in nature that have what's called saponin in them. And saponin is typically a foaming agent or a soaping agent. And so oats are one of them. And I mean, if anyone like cooks with oats or anything, it foams up, because it has saponin in them. And those are things that can also help to break apart dirt and oil without the chemical surfactants.
Wow.
And that's why we have oats in our buffing grains, is because it does help to break that up.
Okay, so while someone's waiting to get their buffing grains in the mail, they could use the oats that are in their pantry.
Yeah,
interesting.
Seriously. Now I would grind them up a little bit. But because otherwise it could be too harsh But yes, I mean, there are very simple things that can be used. It also depends on your lifestyle, right? Like it just doesn't work if you wear a heavy makeup and things of that nature. And there is a little bit of a transition period of getting away from that. But that's one of the things I love about the line. This is kind of a little bit of a tangent, is that we get a lot of customer feedback that our products make them feel so healthy, their skin so healthy, they don't need the makeup. So they feel more confident in being their natural self and going out.
Hashtag goals.
Seriously.
That
and I think
awesome.
that is everyone's goals. It's like, I don't want to put on a pound of makeup every day, like, and look like a completely different person. I just want to be who I am. And our products give people that confidence again. And a lot of it has to do with how healthy their skin feels, but also like they transition away from having to wear all this makeup all the time, because they don't feel like they have to cover anything up anymore.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's a good tip. Okay. Yeah. What's another mistake?
I would say the stress and like rest is a really big thing.
Sleep.
Yeah. I mean, I notice a huge difference. And just like having a night out and like going out and like having some alcohol and then not getting good rest in the morning, like you look ragged when you wake up. You just do.
Sorry.
And you're dehydrated and like you start getting.
So it's almost like the like short-term example of like what a lack of sleep, even if you're not drinking and going out every night, but like what a lack of sleep would do for you over a longer period of time.
For sure. Yeah. And I know those are things that a lot of people say, but it is very true. And then also kind of correlating that with stress. Like stress is a huge issue in just completely disabling, you know, our immune system and a lot of that balance. It affects our adrenals and it affects our immunity, and those are things that we need to maintain, you know, this balance and hydration. And it's all really about hydration. Like, how do we keep our skin hydrated? And that's what's going to prevent, and you can't typically use the term prevent, but mitigate, right, or reduce the signs of aging. Or premature aging or aging too soon, right? It's just focusing on what can maintain that hydration as long as possible. So, and that goes back to water too, like drinking enough water, getting enough sleep, not having so much stress, or finding ways to reduce that stress.
How do you de-stress?
I do a lot of meditation. Yep.
What
meditation
kind?
And
like, what do you usually do for meditation?
Just a very quiet space. And like, for me, it's a lot of like affirmations, you know, of things that I'm feeling, things that I really need to tell myself. And that's kind of what revamps me back into finding my power again, or being able to, you know, reduce whatever the noise is going on at the moment. Is just this positive affirmations and just in my head by myself in a quiet space.
When do you tend to do that?
I feel like, honestly, whenever I feel like I need it, whenever I feel like I've listened to my body a lot. And so I'm not one of those typical, I have this morning routine and nightly routine. I wish I did. I really do. I think I would function much better in a routine every day, but I just naturally don't do that.
Do you feel a routine in every other way of your life? Like, is that why you say that?
Yeah, I think so. But I like to be able to respond accordingly to what's happening, right? And I feel like if I'm so rigid on a certain routine, I don't have the flexibility to be able to respond the way that I need to. Like, for example, I don't even set an alarm. I mean, I wake up when the sun comes up, and I've just naturally had that circadian rhythm. And I think that's been important to me to find is I don't think I've set an alarm for like 7 years.
Oh my God, I don't know what that's like. I don't. I like to wake up in the morning, but I need the alarm.
Yeah.
Need it.
But I also don't wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning because I can't. You know, I wake up when my body naturally wakes up, and then that's usually around like 6:30, you know, and obviously in the summertime when the sun comes up earlier, it's earlier. In the winter, it's a little bit later. And I adjust that way. I mean, if I have a meeting or something, of course, like those are the moments where I might need to. Yeah. But it's just ironic that when I do, or like an early flight, my body will wake up before the alarm. Like, it's so weird. It's so weird.
Because your body's just like ready for the mindset shift of waking up.
I have no idea. Or it's just anxiety that like I'm going to like sleep through it. I don't know what it is.
I definitely have that anxiety. I do the same thing.
Yeah.
But I always wake up with an alarm. So that's what I always connected it to. But that's interesting.
Yeah. And so it just goes back to, sorry we're on the tangent, but that goes back to that, like, just I like to be able to respond to what my body is telling me. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. Okay. Before I get into the details, what's a third mistake that you see happen frequently with just lack of care of someone's skin?
So again, this might go against what we were just talking about before a little bit and what you do, but just give it a break. You know, like I think that we have this mentality, and it's the same thing with a lot of our lifestyle. It's just like over cleanse everything. Everything has to be super clean. And like in all reality, the only two places that probably need to be completely spotless and clean are like kitchen and operating rooms, you know, like areas where like,
I actually completely agree with this. I'm just going to speak from my own. I know this is kind of controversial, but I don't know. It depends on what you think is controversial. But I've always felt that I have a pretty good immune system because I'm not a germaphobe. Yeah. Like I'm really not. Yeah, me too. I think because like, oh yeah, I touched the spin bike this morning. Like I'm not Lisa Rinna, like with my, you know what I mean? Housewives with the antibacterial wipes. Yes, I wipe it off when I'm done for the respect of somebody else, but it's not something where I'm like freaking out about it. I'm touching airplanes all the time. I take my emergency before I get on the plane, but I do think that coming into contact with things that your body needs to learn how to combat.
Yes.
So I guess that brings us back to what this is probably doing for you, right?
That's exactly the science of the microbiome. That's the whole point, is that, we need this diversity of healthy bacteria, and your microbiome changes. I mean, you get married and move in, or, you and your boyfriend move in together, and now you're exposed to somebody else's bacteria and their microbiome, and it adjusts yours. And so
then you've been dropping a lot of microbiome and bacteria from your space into mine.
Exactly.
And that must be what it is. Okay,
Yep.
good. I'm glad we established that. Okay. So I love to hear that you wake up pretty naturally, and like that, other than just meditation whenever it happens, is there anything consistently, like maybe what you have for breakfast, something that you do to start your day?
Yeah. I mean, when I'm in when I'm in a really good routine, quote unquote, right? Since I just said I don't have a routine, but I love having like a lemon water, like cucumber water, like something very refreshing in the morning. Whether that be like turmeric or some type of like juicing if I need to. And sometimes if I'm in a mode, again, like I listen to my body. So if I'm in a mode of like intermittent fasting for whatever reason, and I'm just like, my body's telling me I'm not hungry, then I'm not hungry.
Yeah.
I eat when I'm hungry. I don't.
Do you typically on a daily basis intermittent fast, or is that something just sort of happens whenever it happens?
Again, it just happens whenever it happens.
I love this is my kind of intermittent fasting methodology. Instead of reading a book and going, this is the exact thing you have to do, I just roughly do 11 to 7 eating every day.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's it. I eat between 11 a.m. and 7 p.m. and it keeps me from eating too late at night.
Yep.
And I have not found I need food early in the morning.
Yep.
Or really mid-morning.
Yeah. And I think that's awesome. I notice, and it's just, again, listening to your body. Like when I do eat late at night, I don't sleep well, or I have like weird dreams or like it's just certain things, right? Or I can't wake up in the morning, I'm super puffy, whatever it is. Like I don't deal well with sodium sometimes, but yeah, like it's just going back to, I notice that this behavior with my body, so I stop doing it. And same thing, I have to kind of cut myself off before eating too late at night. But if I do eat in the morning, I typically like something like just berries. I'll have a pint of blueberries, or I'll have a pint of raspberries or blackberries or something. Just low glycemic, not a ton of sugar. I would prefer tea over coffee, but sometimes when I'm in coffee mode, I'm just like, coffee.
It's gotta be coffee.
I know.
When you need coffee, it's coffee.
I know. But I do yes, when I'm on my game, it's tea, it's berries, it's like things that are very light. And that's really all I kind of need,
Yeah.
If I find that I need to do some meditation, I'll do some meditation. I typically always am rinsing off my face, and whether that, and sometimes, again, I adjust my own routine. Sometimes I just do the toner instead of the cleanser because of whatever reason, but yeah, it's hard to be able to say like, these are the actionable points, because I do listen to my body so much.
Love that. I think that's a good tip. I think that's what everybody has to do.
Takes time,
everyone's
though.
different, but let's get back to basics. For sure.
And you just have to listen to that, right? And start paying attention and finding that consciousness and awareness around your own body. And it does. It's just removing things. One of the big things that I did do to get to this point was I went through a cleanse where I took out certain things, kind of like you said that you did, and identified where, some intolerances were or what have you, and started there, but it had to be kind of extreme for me to be able to identify that. And then I was able to make those choices afterwards.
Yeah. I love that. I kind of want to go to the entrepreneurial side of you. I feel so overwhelmed by the idea of launching a product. And I imagine that it was difficult at the start when you have a vision and you're so driven by something that happened to you personally, and you're trying to figure out, maybe the cream, right? That's the first thing. If just thinking back at those earlier moments and seeing where you are now, what advice would you give yourself at that point in time when maybe there were frustrating times, there were impatient times, and you're dealing with a lot of science? Like what would you say to yourself?
If I had to go back and do it all over again, not finding the right people has really been one of the key things that I probably, needed to do early on, or do a lot more research on, right? I don't know everything. I can't do everything, but this was so important to me and valuable to me that I don't know if I would have, and I don't know that I would have done it differently, honestly, because I didn't want anyone else in it and taking it a different direction than what I wanted to do. And so I was hesitant on bringing certain people in, and, but it would have gotten me there a little bit faster. Now, because I did a lot of it on my own, I learned a ton. And I failed a ton and I learned a ton. And so now I personally know, as opposed to bringing somebody else in and them doing it for me, you know, it's that whole, like, if you don't do it yourself, you don't teach yourself how to fish, you're never going to know. And so there's, I don't know, there's pros and cons to that. So we were slower out the gate because I didn't have the help, right? I bootstrapped this, so I didn't have the finances either to just like throw a ton of money at it. But I also wanted to figure out what I wanted to do. I didn't come off of my mom's passing and say like, I want to launch a skincare line. It took time to figure that out. You know, at first it was a lab, and then it was product development, and then it was working with natural practitioners and doing stuff for them. We did supplements and ingestibles, and then eventually it led to, okay, I have a really good product. I can take this to market.
Okay.
And I needed that. I needed that learning. And unfortunately, just the biggest thing is that it just took time, you know?
Sure.
But bringing in integral people, like as soon as I knew and understood, I wish I would have just really forced myself into the startup world. Columbus has an amazing startup community.
They do.
It really
I
does.
know. And we are so under the radar. For those of you who are not in Columbus,
Seriously.
you have no idea. It's hot here. It's hot. Yeah.
I mean, I just met with an investor this week, and this is, you know, I've met with several of them, and I have investors calling me from the West Coast, but they're coming from the West Coast to the Midwest. And specifically what she was saying was she loves the scrappiness and just the values of people in the Midwest, and in our entrepreneurial mindset is that there's typically a reason or a passion behind what we do. She's like, you don't find that in the West Coast anymore. So Silicon Valley is just like, it's been such a game.
it's
and
a
people
program
know.
now.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
do this to get this funding, and then do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just so easy. Like, you know, like the check marks, check all the boxes off. You get this check, like you start
I
your
guess
business.
that's the silver lining of us always being a little bit behind.
Yeah,
The
you're
startups
right.
here are
You're right.
super passionate still, where on the West Coast, they really got the memo on everything first. I remember when I started my business, all my clients were on the West Coast. Nobody here had figured out it was even worth paying for, you know?
Yeah.
So, no, it's really fascinating.
It is.
That's a
And
good
it's
tip.
starting to get there. Like the tides are kind of turning towards the Midwest. But it still is challenging. You know, it's not easy to fundraise in the Midwest. There's still very conservative mindsets around, you know, vision and growth and how it should be. And our supply chain is completely different. So when I talk about supply chain for people that are very typical, like P&G type of, you know, supply
Right.
chain, it's just different. You
Yeah,
know,
they're
like,
gonna
how do
go,
you scale
"Why are
that,
you doing
right?
this?"
Why don't you
Yes.
just like throw chemicals in
Right.
this and like go to all the retail? Well, that goes against the entire vision, you know?
Let's go back to slide number 1.
Yeah, seriously. And it's nice to get that, you know, from them to say that this is a really great community. There's a lot of passion here. There's a lot of exciting ideas here, and that they find value in the Midwest.
I love that.
Yeah.
Is there a book, or are you much of a reader?
I try to.
Okay.
I do more audio books.
Yeah, I mean audiobooks all day. Like
Yeah.
scale your time, totally. Like,
Yeah.
is there one that resonated with you? Just it didn't have to be yesterday. Just like over time, that really either mindset wise or just something that just kind of put a fire in your belly.
Yep. From an entrepreneurial standpoint, Start With Why, Simon Sinek was
Love.
like my first one that I was like, somebody that believes what I believe in,
Yeah,
you know? And
very
I think
aligned.
that was because when I first came into the entrepreneurial world, this is my first time, you know, like I'm exploring it. It's all very new to me. And so some of these mindsets and methodologies I hadn't even heard of before.
Yeah.
And so I already obviously like internalized what I felt I wanted to do and be in a startup world. And when I started hearing, and then of course, like I'm anti everything because I'm so frustrated with what happened with my mom that I'm like, I don't like this and I don't like this. And so I think everyone does it wrong and like no one's doing it right? Which is not true. But, and then I read these books and hear these things. I'm like, oh my gosh, like people do believe what I believe. And there is a community out there that wants more conscious corporations. And
we're
do
all
things
just
that-
coming to our own conclusions,
Yeah.
however we do.
Yep, right. And so that's what really resonated with me. To Start With Why, Simon Sinek was the first one. And then, I mean, I found Conscious Capitalism, John Mackey of Whole Foods, and Raj, I'm not remembering his last name right now. That was another one that just like instantly resonated with me.
That's a good one.
And then from a just like a personal philosophical standpoint, Seed of the Soul by Gary, I'm going to pronounce his last name wrong, Zukov, I believe. That one also was fascinating. Tough to listen to. Might have to read it a few times because
Okay.
it's like a lot of philosophical words and, you know, but it just really resonated with my soul. So
I've heard that one recommended a few times
Yeah.
now, so I'm gonna have to give that one a couple of tries. I love
Yeah.
that. Super good tips. I want to ask, you know, just where everybody can catch up with you, but I also want to mention for anyone whether you have problems with your skin or not, but you really want to start caring for your microbiome, I want you to try Concur.
Me too.
There, I actually have a special link in the show notes, and Lindsey's been kind enough to offer 30% off everything in the store. So go and check it out, whatever's right for you. Maybe give the cleanser a try, or just start to see what it's like to work with a product that's doing much more than just cleaning your skin, because it's all about how your whole body is working, and that's what I would recommend. But where can everybody also follow you on the social medias?
Yeah, well, me personally, we joked about this earlier, but it's XOXO_Lindsey because I made it like 7 years ago.
I mean, it's pretty cool though. Like, it's like, I can see why you're not changing it.
Right?
It's good. It's a good one. It's a good one.
And that I honestly like signed everything XOXO, so I'm like, oh, this is perfect.
It's so Gossip Girl. I love it. I
is.
love that.
Yeah. And nostalgic for me, I guess. And then with Concur, it's at Concur__. So 2 underscores after Concur for our brand. But we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, and then shopconcur.com to go purchase all the goodies.
Yes. And I think I have a code actually. It's AMYTV, but there's a special link in the notes just to make sure you get through there. But 30% off with AMYTV in the promo code area. Before I let you go, I'd love to know, what does it mean to you to go after the life you want?
To me, it means finding that passion and purpose. And if we're not driven, and that's just because that's what I found, it was when I had a chip on my shoulder, and not that everyone has to go through that, but when I had that like fire in me, like that really burned a fire in me that I was like, I will stay up all night until I fix this problem. And I had never felt that type of drive before. I've always been a driven person. I've always been an athlete. I've always been extremely well in school. And but those things kind of came naturally and easy to me. This was a challenge. I'm like, I had to figure this out, and I'm going to change the world doing it, And it wasn't until that moment that I was like, I'm going after this one thing, and realizing that I have the power to do it. I think that's another piece, is finding that you are powerful, you can make a difference, and you can change the world. And in whatever lane that is, just find it, I don't even know if that was really...
That was fabulous. You're fabulous. Lindsey Moeller, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This is great.
All right, let's catch a few details here. First of all, listen to your body and simplify. Sometimes we try a little bit too hard. Sometimes we're not really trying hard enough. Listen to your body. If there's something not right, if you don't feel right, if it's inside or if it's outside, your body is trying to tell you something. And I say simplify because sometimes I go a little overkill on the way I do things, and I know simplifying has helped me a ton. The next detail is probably part of that simplification process, and that's don't wash your face every day. I'm having a hard time saying that one out loud, but here's why. I am such a habitual human, okay? I'm really good at washing my face every day. I wash my face twice a day. But after this chat, I'm changing it up a little bit. And this is literally being recorded like 5 minutes after I talked to Lindsey. So still something I'm going to grapple with tomorrow morning. But I do see what she's saying, because you know what? Sometimes we need a little bit of bacteria to show our bodies what they're capable of. And you don't always have to dry out your face with these cleansers that we're using. So maybe give it a go. Make sure that you are getting all the makeup off your face, because that's just plain dirt that is clogging your pores. But maybe you don't have to cleanse the skin every single time, especially if you're a low makeup type of person. Shout out to the guys out there who are like, yeah, I am a low makeup type of person. And especially if you're a guy and you're like, maybe I should wash my face once a week. That would be great. Figure out what your body is telling you and try to lean into it. And finally, after the show, Lindsey and I were talking, and I mentioned that Mel Robbins had been on the YouTube channel in the past, and she said, oh man, I wish I would have said something then. The 5-second rule, which is Mel Robbins' methodology around, hey, if you need a boost, if you need to get going, count down from 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and take the action that you need to do, because that is the moment that your brain is ready for it, when you count down. And so she mentioned that sometimes when it's one of those days that her body does wake her up naturally in the morning and she's not quite feeling it. She's not ready to get up. She uses the 5-second rule to move her butt. And I just thought that was a great tip I wanted to share, even though we were just having so much fun chatting about skincare. We forgot to mention that. So thought that I would pop that in there for you. I'm so thrilled about this episode. If you care about these things, bettering your life, bettering your health, bettering your skin, bettering your everything, surrounding yourself with positive people, please check out Shine Squad by going to patreon.com/AMYTV. By joining, not only do you surround yourself with incredible people who are lifting you up, but you also support this show and you support my YouTube channel and you support what I'm doing. And if I've helped you at all, it is a massive compliment to have you a part of that tribe. So go check out patreon.com/AMYTV. And another big shout out to 99 Designs for sponsoring this episode of Detail Therapy. You can get $20 off your first design. Go get that logo you've been telling yourself you wanted to do to motivate you to start your blog or start your thing, whatever it is. If you're like Lindsey and you're going to start a business, go get your design by going to 99designs.com/AMYTV. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it as always. If you'd like to discover even more actionable details, head over to AMYTV by typing in your browser youtube.com/AMYTV. Literally, you could play a drinking game with how many times I said AMYTV. For those of us drinking Prosecco, this is much easier. Or you can search for my name in the YouTube app, Amy Landino. Make sure you remember to subscribe for good vibes, kiss the ones you love, and go after the life that you want. Cheers.